So welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast, where today we're diving into the world of transformation and courage with the amazing Dr. Gemma Munro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So just a little bit about Gemma. Gemma is an award-winning speaker and holds a PhD in performance psychology and has a unique gift of sparking rapid and easeful change. She's dubbed the Alchemist of work, and she's an expert in fostering courage, transforming lives, and turning the impossible dreams into reality. She has reached over 72,000 people globally in her work, including presentations at Google, Amazon, Qantas, and she's sparked insights that have sparked remarkable change in workplaces around the world. Not only that, she has also graced the stage at Westminster Valley alongside the Rolling Stones. So welcome to the show, Gemma.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. It's nice to be back. Second time.
Actually, I should say this. That's probably your number one accolade. Second time on the show.
That should be top of my bio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to get Katrina to amend your bio.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
so.
Beautiful. Look, this was actually a little bit of an impromptu reach out and say, hey, let's connect and get on the show. So I'm going to say this. I've done minimal prep on this, which is the first time, and I'm actually really excited about just having a conversation and seeing where we're at. And I know that you're doing some amazing new work and helping people find their purpose. And I thought that'd be an amazing conversation to have today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And if I may say, I'm non-condescendingly proud of you because I know in the past you've been an over-preparer. Yeah. So the fact that you're just sitting here going, yep, I've done no prep, I think that's great.
Yeah. First time for everything. It would bring a lot of hours back in my life if I could do this. So
yes.
I'm going to trial it today and see what we do. But
First time of many, maybe.
We'll see how we go. So what's been happening? Where have you been? What's last time you were on would have been 2 or 3 years ago now.
I think that's
2 years
right.
ago.
Yeah.
And we had an amazing conversation. It was one of the most I think it still is one of the most downloaded podcasts that we've had. It's done remarkably well. We talked, what did we talk about last time? All things.
We actually went really deep and we tackled some of your self-doubt.
Yeah, we did.
And, live, you were really brave. We talked, I think, mostly about courage and change and the courage to change.
That's right. And now you're working on all things purpose.
Yes, well, it's one of the things I'm working on. So I'm on the speaker circuit and still speaking about courage and change and transformation.
No doubt. And you've been travelling all week, haven't you? So you're
Can you see my eye
bright-eyed
bags?
and bushy-tailed this morning.
Yeah, it was Adelaide, Gold Coast, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide this week. So,
yeah, wow.
It was a bit of a long schedule. But I had this urge last year. I realised that in my executive coaching work and in some of my speaking work too, I've helped people have big aha moments about who they are, but not just who they are, what they're here to do, and who they're here to be. And over the years, I've developed a range of tools that actually work. And I have to say, a bit of a rant, but I get really sick of, I know it was well-intentioned, but what colour is my parachute? Those kinds of career books. They're terrible advice. They actually don't work. They're fully based on the rational left hemisphere side of the brain, and they get people travelling a well-trodden path as opposed to the path that's meant for them.
Yep.
So I just had this calling to put together a program that really helps people get to the heart of their purpose and kind of who they want to be when they grow up, no matter if they're 27 or 57 or 77.
What does purpose mean to you?
Okay, I do think that in each of us, we are born with this spark inside of us, this light that is made up of our unique energy signature, our unique strengths or gifts, and our unique purpose, i.e. what we are here to do in this life.
So you think that's calculated before anything, before you've taken your first breath?
I think it comes with our soul. I think we have a plan each lifetime. And then what happens is we hop into this world and well-intentioned parents and teachers and society kind of say, oh no, sweetie, you can't do that and you can't be that. And here's how to be a person. Yeah. Here's what you're meant to do. And also, who are you to think that that is even possible? And we get wired away from this unique light. And the analogy I've always had in mind is that each of us is like this beautiful lamp, different shape, different lampshade, different color, different size. And all these messages from teachers, parents, society throw a blanket over that light. And our job then is to work out what the blankets are, get those out of the way so we can rediscover that light. And part of that light is our purpose, i.e. what we're here to do.
As you're talking there, and it reminds me of a quote that I don't know where I heard this from, but it was like, right now, there's the cure for cancer in the mind of a child who can't afford an education.
Absolutely.
Right? And so environment would also be a critical part in that, and where they're brought up and not being able to realise their potential because of the environment.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm really aware that when I talk about, finding your passion and purpose, it can be like, well, good for some. But what I would say is that those of us who have the opportunity to do that, we are almost compelled to do it, because the other thing I think about purpose is that it contains whatever your unique purpose is. Once you uncover it and start to make it a reality, it will inevitably make the world a better place. And the world needs to become a better place right now in all ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, so my version, I asked the question, what's your definition of purpose? I honestly think that purpose to me is the intention to contribute to the well-being of society, right? Like, I think we are intrinsically motivated to do and help others. I mean, that is, it's a survival technique. That's Maslow's hierarchy, right? We build a community and we connect, and that helps us survive, right? So naturally we've evolved into this world of saying, well, let's find purpose that actually gives back and can help contribute to society.
I agree with you, and I would add that I think there are a couple more ingredients in that. If I was really wanting to help society, and if people were really wanting to help society, there would be lots of things they could do that would make a massive impact, which are in no way what they're designed to do. They're not going to play to their strengths. They're not going to give them that lit up energy that actually makes them world class at what they do. So I think it is about making the world a better place, but I think we are wired to do that by tapping into whatever it is that makes us better people.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. So how do we understand what was pre-designed?
Yeah, there are. It's a big question, and I think there are a few things that really help. On a practical level, I do really suggest that people hone in on what they're naturally good at what other people thank them for, and the things that they do that when they're doing them, all time passes. So those three things together make up our natural strengths. I think tapping into what it is that drives us. I think understanding what problems we want to solve in the world. There are lots of puzzle pieces that when put together help us understand what we're here to do and who we're here to be. Another thing I really recommend is human design or gene keys. I think that is a system that I don't do one-on-one debriefs as much anymore, but I've found that incredibly useful to help people understand who they were meant to be before society got their hands on them. But I do think the number one thing that society at the moment, we are rewarded for being busy, we are rewarded for being rational-minded all the time, and we don't make enough space for the small, still voice to give us little hits of intuition, of instinct to say, oh, what if you try this? Because I do think our purpose speaks to us in the language of joy and curiosity. And the problem is we are so busy doing the doing that we don't take that step up off the dance floor onto the balcony to actually ask ourselves, well, what do I want to do? And what is interesting me? And what would actually make me feel energized and inspired? We just keep on the hamster wheel because we think that's what we're meant to do. And stopping that hamster wheel is actually really scary, because what if one of the thoughts is, oh, I'm not meant to be doing what I'm doing? And we're wired to avoid change. So we avoid the peace that would give us the intuition that we're meant to be changing.
But are we wired? You said we're wired for joy and curiosity. Then why wouldn't we chase that? Like, I mean, look, if you think about what brings us joy, I mean, food brings us immense joy. Sex brings us immense joy. Like those sort of things we chase and we want the best of. So why wouldn't we do this with
our purpose?
With our purpose in our life.
Yeah. I want to go down 3 different rabbit holes with this one. Our purpose communicates through joy and curiosity, but joy and curiosity are found in the right hemisphere of the brain. And most of us haven't been taught how to access that hemisphere of the brain.
So you don't know what you don't know almost.
That's exactly right. What we have been taught is to stick in the left hemisphere of the brain that says stay small, stay hidden. It says control everything. So have a 12-point plan, have a 5-year plan, don't upset others. And it also says, so this is where food and sex is.
Which is essentially saying stay safe.
Stay safe. Yeah. Exactly. Don't rock the boat. And your purpose, you're not meant to stay safe in a harbour. You're meant to sail out.
Yep.
But when you talked about food and sex, they can give joy, but often they're used, and I'm thinking about social media scrolling and shopping and all that, they're used for pleasure, which actually is about numbing our fears, numbing that intuition that will say, honey, you're meant for something different. You're meant for something bigger or softer or bolder or braver. So I'm not saying food and sex don't provide joy. It just depends on what the motivation.
Probably pleasure's a better word for it.
Yes, and I think it's about, am I doing this to numb from the life I'm meant to be living, or is this contributing to the life I'm meant to be living?
Yeah. I mean, there's rabbit holes everywhere here.
Indeed.
Where's the best place that I can start to untap what my purpose is? Like, how do I listen to my intuition, so to speak?
Yeah. I advocate doing 3 things every day if you can, every week if you can't. So one is, I talked about it before, balcony time, which I'm sure you do. And
explain me balcony time.
Balcony time. So this is a concept that Ronald Heifetz, a Harvard psychiatrist, I believe, don't quote me on that, came up with. He said the most effective leaders take time to step up off the dance floor. And the dance floor is the doing, is the responding to phone calls and emails and deadlines. To step up off the dance floor onto the balcony, because on the balcony you can say, what's going on the dance floor? Am I enjoying myself? What am I curious about? Am I playing to my strengths? So to do that at least once a week for an hour, but I do it every day at the start of the day. The second...
Sorry, can we just tap into that?
Of course we can.
So we're on number 1 of 3, right?
Yes.
So remember that, keep in your head the number 2. We're going to go back to those 2.
Okay.
So that's just like looking down on the balcony is like the bird's eye view almost, isn't it? It's seeing the layout of the land. I don't do that. Well, I don't know if I do. I think I do in my run. Like if I run or exercise, like something like that, as opposed to dedicated time where I should do that. And I know that I should do that more. There's a TV show called Yellowstone. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it or.
It's gritty, so I don't like gritty television.
Whatever it might be, it's the Kevin Costner's character. He spends half the day thinking, and I just about his business, about life, and I just think, I wish I wasn't so busy. I wish I could step away and step off that dance floor to do that, because I actually think I would be much better. So I wonder, I don't know. I wonder if I'd do it, but in other ways, but it's not dedicated.
Well, if I may set you a piece of thoroughly not mandated home play, it's once a week at least to find an hour that's non-negotiable time, that's in your calendar, that says do not book over, where you say, all right, what's my vision? Because I think you're pretty clear on your vision. And what can I do this week to move towards it? What am I doing at the moment that's actually getting in the way of it? What can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
What can I chuck in the fuck it bucket?
Yeah.
Because so many of us are doing the things that we think we should be doing when actually they're not contributing in any way. We're just stuck in a rut of doing them over and over. And what is it this week that's actually going to energize me? What's going to make me feel like I'm being who I am? How can I play to my strengths this week? How can I move more towards my values? These questions once a week kind of set you up and keep you aligned with who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah. I guess I naturally do them, but
Yeah.
don't dedicate time to recalibrating it. I think maybe that's where
And if it's working for you, that's fine.
I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean?
You should maybe give it
I think
a
I
go.
should. No, there's a part of me that almost wants to do it the everyday, almost start the day with it, like you just said. I think that sounds great.
Yeah, that's I do it every day. And the other thing I do is because I have done the work on purpose and passion. I do have a very clear vision for the future, and I spend some time imagining as if it's already happened and feeling those feelings. And when you do that, when we think certain thoughts, and we it's almost like the emotions we feel when we think those thoughts, when we think about our vision, they magnetize the things we need to land into our lap. I'm sure you've had those moments with the right person.
You are the combination of your thoughts, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing that works really well. And I for those that want to implement balcony time, I really do recommend a certain time each day or a certain time each week. For me, it's at the start of the day with coffee. I had one coaching client who does it on a Thursday at 4 p.m. She shuts her laptop. She doesn't go home and deal with the kids. She goes to the pub and gives herself 2 glasses of champagne. She says, it's my favourite time of the week. So,
but is it a pen and paper exercise? Is it?
It is for me.
It is.
Yeah. But I do think... And this is where the left brain, I've got to do it right, comes in, because what you'll do is you'll start it a certain way. It's like, actually, that doesn't feel right. I want to focus on this. So we make balcony time our own. But I do have some suggested questions if people want to get in touch, and I can always forward them on.
Yeah, great. Beautiful. Right, number 2. So balcony time's number 1.
Balcony time's number 1.
What was the original question? I can't even remember.
The original question was, how do you tap into your
That's
intuition
right. Perfect.
to find your purpose?
Yeah. Excellent. Glad you remember. See, when I don't have them written down, I don't know what I'm asking.
It's only because you gave me a coffee, Daniel. So, speaking of, let me take a sip. So, the second time is peace time, and this is where we take conscious times throughout the day. And again, if you can ritualize it and routinize it, is that a word? Make it routine. That works really well. Find the practices for you that take you back into alpha brainwaves, which is associated with a whole brain state, which takes us back to peace. And Martha Beck once said that the universe always wants to deliver your purpose, deliver what you want to you, but it only knows your home address, and your home address is peace. And so if we can take these times to get back to peace, and I recommend a few things to do that. Obviously, meditation works really well, even if it's 5 minutes. And there's a free app called Insight Timer, which is terrific. Nature, and it could be a 20-minute walk, but it could also just be going outside, taking off your shoes and feeling the grass between your toes. That helps. Yeah, so, and you probably have had that experience where you've walked around the corner and you've been in a manic state and you've seen a sunset or a sunrise and your whole body just goes, so that the nature really, really helps. Music, have you got pieces of music that just bring you back home to yourself when you play them?
Yeah.
You don't have to share them.
I won't say. It's a few tears with those music.
Exactly. So having a playlist that brings you back to peace is really useful.
Do you know what's actually? I will share.
Yeah, please.
You know The Greatest Showman. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah.
The story of he's the story of an entrepreneur, and all the music is related to the journey in which you go on. So like that album in itself is really interesting.
Like Come Alive.
Come Alive is probably the one that hits me the hardest the most, because that was his realization of, hang on, this is more than just work. It's about family. It's about love. It's about everything else that goes with it. So
I like that
Come
song
Alive.
too.
Or no, hang on.
Is that it?
Come Alive. No, Come Alive was when he started. It was at the end when he realized, oh shit, I stuffed up here. I've gone too far. Anyway, it's one of
It'll
those
come
songs.
to us. Yeah.
But I think there's that type of music that relates to what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
Not just love songs and stuff like that. So that's a bit boring.
And for me it's classical music, but emotional classical music, like movie soundtracks, for instance, really help.
Oh yes.
Ola Gjerlo is a Norwegian, I think, composer who brings me home. But I think we all have music that when we hear it, it triggers our left brain to relax and it allows us access to our right brain.
The Interstellar song, and
I don't know that.
oh, it's
I've actually never
fabulous.
seen that movie.
Oh, haven't you?
No.
Oh, you're missing out.
Okay, good. I'll
And
watch it
the
tonight.
Inception song, is it John Williams? Is that he's the composer?
He's a massively like
Yeah.
as in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I think he does Interstellar as
right.
well, which is great. So yes, that's
So having a peace practice, and whether it's meditation, music, but you will work out what works for you. The other thing that works is creativity. So singing, dancing, cooking for pleasure, not because you need to make spaghetti bolognese yet again for the kids.
Yeah.
And breathing. So actually taking some time just to deepen your breathing really, really helps.
So by peace, it's almost another way of saying just take some time out.
Well, yes, with a caveat, because some of us take time out by scrolling on our phones.
Yeah. So taking time out to be within your own mind.
Taking time out to just be, and I would say it's actually in your body.
In your body.
Yeah,
Okay.
so quietening that manic mind in whatever way works for you. And in the What Comes Next program, I've got a meditation that helps people to do that and then helps them to visualize what's coming, because you'll find that once you're in peace, you get these little hits that say you should call this person, or, oh, there's this book that's meant for you. And also weird stuff kind of lands in. So the number of times I've had, I was in peace one morning, and the small still voice in my head, which is how our purpose speaks to us usually, said to me, get your ass to Patch. And Patch, for the listeners who don't know, is a restaurant in the Adelaide Hills. And my manic left brain get stuff done was telling me, no, you need to do laundry. But I got used to listening to that small still voice. So I went and I had lunch, and behind the counter was the owner of the restaurant, who's now my fiance, and we're getting married this year.
There you go.
So when we are in peace, our intuition tells us the little steps that we need to take to lead us towards our purpose and passion.
That's the Alchemist, the omens in the Alchemist. Have you?
I have read The Alchemist, yeah.
I have a similar story.
Do you?
I was driving to work one morning, and a couple of friends of mine, he's since moved to the US, Andrew Montesi and James Begley, they used to run a podcast, or two different podcasts. One was a sporting podcast and one was a business podcast. And Andrew messaged me that morning saying, hey, we're interviewing the Mitch Creek, who's the captain of the Adelaide 36ers. We're doing a live podcast. Do you want to come and be part of it and just come and watch? And I went, yeah, I'll be there. And that morning I remember saying to my wife, oh, couldn't be bothered. Like,
I've got stuff to do.
You know what I mean? I wasn't a fuck yeah. I was kind of like, nah, yeah, it'd be good to see. I'm interested in podcasting, because this was before I started the podcast.
Yeah, right.
And anyway, I got off the phone. I was on the hands-free. Got off the Bluetooth, whatever. I was in the car with my wife, and I just told her, I'm not going. Nah, I couldn't be bothered. I'm too tired. Kids, whatever. And right then, as I hung up, a car cut in front of me. I had to slam on my brakes. And on the back of the car, it had an Adelaide 36ers sticker, right? And I just went, I rang Laura, I'm going to the podcast, I'm going. And I did. And I fell in love with podcasting and started the podcast, and I'm 120 episodes in. So I actually dedicate that car cutting me off and that sticker.
Bless that car.
I know.
There's a saying that, I don't know if it's a saying, it's a word, it's pronoia, which is the opposite of paranoia. And it means that the world is conspiring to shower you with blessings. So even a car cutting across, that was a sign for you. You could have got annoyed, but actually instead you had the presence of mind to go, ooh.
Yeah.
Something in
so I think the timing was, because that was at the time I just finished The Alchemist as well.
Yeah, right.
Where I was like, give me any omen. What omen can I have? Right. So, but I'm with you on that. I do believe that the world will conspire to help you.
That's right.
And
If
it'll move out of its way so you can walk through. Yeah.
And what we have to do is move out of our own way
Yeah.
so that we've got the space to see it and then to act on it. Because I do think we're getting little whispers all the time. But if we're busy and our mind is busy, then we miss them entirely.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you that things are kind of flung into our path. I still remember, Taryn Brumfitt. Yeah. So,
which, by the way, we're trying to organise her coming on the show. So
do you need me to give her a wink and a nudge?
We'll let's do a shout out now. We'll actually sniff at this clip and go, all right, Taryn, hurry up, come on the show.
So she's one of my very dear friends, and we've got, together with Mia Hanshin, we have the Oyster Sisters podcast.
Yeah.
And we kept bumping into each other in the weirdest of circumstances. So we'd be pushing our kids on swings in playgrounds we'd never been to. We were seated next to each other on a flight, over and over work functions. And then it was when literally in the car park just around the corner from here, which we'd never parked at before, the elevator doors opened and we were staring at each other. And it was that moment we went, oh, well, okay, like we're meant to do something with each other. And since then, obviously we're very dear friends and we now have the podcast, but we also launched an Unstoppable program that reached thousands of women around the world. So I do think if we can pay attention to the opportunities and the people and the ideas that come at us from left field, particularly if they're repeated, that is often a sign that leads us to our purpose. But if we're not taking regular peace time, we tend to miss them.
Do you think what's the best way to ask this question? Do you think these opportunities pop up more often if you are clearer on your vision and of what you actually want to do and be? And because how do you understand an omen or without actually knowing that it's going to connect you?
Yeah, okay. So I would say, yes, that's true in that because our rational minds are clear on our vision, we know to make sense of those signs. If we're not clear on our vision, I do still think we have those moments come to us, but we need to have more faith. And the way we know that those moments we're meant to act on, we actually feel from the neck down into our body. If our body has a yes sign and a no sign. So, you can everyone can check it really quickly now. It's a technique. Again, I learned from Martha Beck. But if you just say out loud, I love fresh air, and you feel what happens in your body from the neck down. Can you just do it for me now?
I love fresh air.
All right, try this then. So maybe close your eyes. I will come back to that.
Go.
Say, I love nausea.
I love nausea.
And what does your body do from the neck down? What's the symptoms?
Like it tenses up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now close your eyes again.
All right.
And again, paying attention to the physical sensations from the neck down. Say, I love fresh air.
I love fresh air. Yeah, it opens up.
Exactly. So our bodies have a yes sign and a no sign. And if you want to know if something's a sign, you just actually ask. If this is for anything, you can say, do I want to eat tuna in brine or tuna in olive oil for lunch?
I actually felt like it went like it opened up the what's it called? What do you wear? Your nightgown sort of thing, like
your dressing gown.
Dressing gown. That's it.
Here I am.
Yeah, as I said it, like it felt like I felt it go whoosh and open like.
And that's your
doors.
body's sign for yes. So any decision you need to make from now on, you can just check in with your body. It makes life so much easier. But
is that the gut feel?
It is. I call it the heart, the heart and the gut.
Yeah, I've heard you use that heart before. The heart and gut.
Yeah.
That's the only way you should make decisions.
Yes, it is.
Obviously, with like some sort of, we've got to make sure we're safe and all that sort of stuff. But it's Michelle and I, my business partner and I, we made some decisions early on in business that wasn't with our heart and gut.
Yeah.
And it backfired on us big time.
Yeah.
And we actually table that now. We will not make decision unless we ask that. It's in our board notes, everything, where it's, what's your gut feel say? Was your intuition saying here? Because you can make some really bad decisions when you don't listen to that.
Absolutely. And I do think a lot of people, particularly in organisations, are stuck in this head-based way of making decisions. And I agree with you. There are some coaches out there that would say, take a leap and the net would appear. And I just think that's just silly behaviour. You do need to do back of the envelope calculations.
Yeah.
But the ultimate decision comes down to how does it make your body feel, as opposed to, because your mind is based on fear, it's based on keeping you safe, it's based on justifying, it's based on making sure you don't stand out too much.
It's a survival technique.
That's right. So we need our mind to slice and dice data. That's really important. But when it comes to making big decisions about your purpose and your passion, your mind is actually going to get in the way.
Have you read into the research on gut health and gut microbiome and how that's almost as big as plays a bigger part of your brain than what your brain does, I should say?
My partner and I are fascinated by that at the moment.
I am eating probiotics like they're going out of fashion.
Yeah, he did kind of roll his eyes a bit because I brought home, he's older than me, and I brought home this tin of capsules that said probiotics for over 50. He's like, are you kidding me? This is what you're making me eat now.
Because you can't eat the under 40 ones.
Yeah, that's
anymore,
right. Yeah, you're done. Sorry, honey.
No, but I think there is the more and more studies that are going into your gut health and microbiome. It is actually saying that the decisions are made with your gut health, so it's looking after that as much as you can.
That's right. There's do you know Professor Tim Spector?
Yes. Diary of the CEO.
Yeah,
he was on that show. I heard
he
him
was
on
that show. I heard him on that too. But he's got this app called Zoe.
Yes,
but it's not in Australia yet.
No,
so
I know. I'm waiting. Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm on the so it for listeners, it actually tracks your glucose by, I think, a little pinprick in your arm, continual monitoring, and it can tell you what foods help your gut health, because we're all wired differently, and what foods don't. We've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with gut health, but I'm so excited about that.
I agree. Well, here's one thing I took away from that podcast was eating 30 different types of plants a week. Yeah. So by plants and legumes, all the above, 30 different types, seeds.
Even herbs.
Herbs.
Yeah, I started picking more herbs from our garden just because of that podcast.
Just get the variety in.
Yeah.
Colourful foods, he said, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so so the first one was what?
I love how we do this. Let's just go here for a moment. The first one was balcony time.
Balcony time. Second one was
peace time.
And the third
one is what I call flow time. And this is, ironically, scheduled time in your calendar that allows you to do whatever you feel like doing. And it could be half an hour a week. It could be a whole day a week. It's whatever you're able to do. But in that time, and if you can, the more you can live your life like this, in some ways the better. Although, I think having a good balance of scheduled time and flow time is really wonderful, and you just need to work out what your balance is. But by allowing yourself flow time to just literally go with the flow, you then allow yourself to go, oh, I feel like calling this person. Or I remember the idea for what comes next was born because I gave myself permission to go for a walk at midday on a Wednesday when my past self would have gone, excuse me, what are you doing? Crack the whip, back to work.
Too busy.
Yeah. And it was in autumn and the leaves were falling, and I saw the whole program. So the more we can allow ourselves to say, I have nothing scheduled in this time, it doesn't mean we don't work, but we allow ourselves to be moved and to be drawn to doing what it is we feel like doing. Often that leads to, it's again, breadcrumbs towards our purpose and passion.
What do you say to the CEOs of the world who like flow time? Like, if you think about the role of a CEO, is to inspire vision, it is to build a world-class team, all those things. What's the flow time look like when that person is reliant on everyone else to do? Like, do you know what I mean? How do you disconnect flow from the work and the everyday? Is it flow for self? Is it flow for, like, what is it? Because for an entrepreneur, you typically would go into, well, I'm building a business, therefore I love it. Right?
Yes.
I had this conversation with my team last night, actually, which was very much around, I'm a workhorse. I'm probably a 20-hour person, like always on, never turn off, happy to answer a call whenever it comes through. And I get often this people often say this to me, is like, I couldn't do what you do, podcast business, everything like that. How do you manage it? It's like, well, I'm not asking you. I do it because I absolutely love it. Therefore, so when I think about flow, I go into that state of what I love, which is business.
Yeah.
So I find that really hard to disconnect. But for others, so 2 questions here.
Yeah.
What do you suggest to those who are in the corporate space? Do you get into flow for work, or is it for life, or like what? I don't know.
And it's so fascinating watching your mind at work now, because you're in your left brain, which is, what does flow time look like?
Yeah.
How do you do it right?
Yeah. And
I would say,
just figure it out, mate.
It's not even figure it out, because that's your mind.
Mm.
And I think it probably is important to start flow time with getting into peace, and then actually asking your body, what do you want to do right now? And sometimes that'll be rest. And sometimes it'll be reading a book in bed in the middle of the day. Sometimes it'll be going for a walk. But the number of world-class ideas that happen, there's a reason why our best ideas come in the bed, bath and bus. Well, at least they did before we scrolled on our phone throughout all of those, because our minds have actually switched off. And I think people credit the mind way too much for the ideas that change the world, when actually, if we want to change the world, we need to be taking time to stop the mind going, to stop the doing, and to just stop everything, because that's when the world-changing ideas come.
So
Yeah,
I am a CEO,
you are.
and if my team is sitting around and saying, Dan, I'm going into flow state now,
Yeah.
how do I know what, like, do you know what I mean?
Are you wanting to measure their productivity from their flow time?
Well, so I'm thinking about, like, surely I'm not the only one that would think that.
No, I understand. I'm not judging you for that thought.
Yeah.
I get it.
And because what's the, Google, what do they have, the 80%, 20% rule? So 80% of your work week is spent on doing what needs to be done. 20% is trying to figure out. And so that's where Gmail came. That's where all these great ideas come from.
Yeah.
But that's, the businesses said the dedicated time.
Yes.
What does it look like if the staff say, we're going to do it? What's leadership's response to that, I guess, is my better question.
Yeah, I do understand. So there would be 2 models for that. One is being the sort of CEO that trusts that when you let your people off the leash. And I'm thinking back to when I was in management consulting, and I this was a long time ago now, but I had worked a 80-hour week. I had 100-hour week, I think. I'd flown every single day. It was crazy. And 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, I went home a little bit early instead of staying there till 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. And I took my dog for a walk. And I was looking around like, what if my colleagues see me? So I think an off-the-leash CEO would say, I trust my people. I trust that they're dedicated to their work. I trust that I've inspired them enough and they're clear on their purpose and they're clear on what it is they're here to do, that if we say, right, Friday mornings are flow time, I'm going to trust you. You might actually, not every time, but that's when some ideas might come through, but it's not mandated. It's not like, well, report on your productivity from your flow time, because that goes against it. Or you can be a little more hands-on, which is that as a team, we all do it at a certain time, and we're going to just focus on anything you want, do anything you want, but it's about work. And I think that would work fine too. It's just where your comfort zone is. But I do think that organisations, and I'm working with a lot of organisations around Australia at the moment, where the relentless change and the relentless pace has built up so much to the point where the leaky talent pipeline just keeps getting leakier and leakier, because employees are going, I don't need to work here. I can make money elsewhere. And I think the organisations that are going to thrive are going to actually give their people the freedom to be who they are. And actually, I do think let them off the leash more than perhaps feels comfortable.
What do you say to the leaders that want to do that but have to return value to shareholders? And do you know what I mean? Like, it's because, in my gut, that sounds right. Yeah. What you're saying, right? And in my gut, allowing our people to be innovative, and work on that flow state, seems super in the right direction. However, we've got deadlines to meet, clients to serve, like all the above, and there's already not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. And it does, I have to say, it does take a leap of faith. But it is backed up by research, and I can't quote the study, but I read recently that there's been research done that shows that actually having a 4-day week either has no impact on productivity or increases productivity. And so back to that leaky talent pipeline, if as leaders we can trust our people to, in that flow time, if they need to rest, you are not going to get the best out of your people if they feel like they have to produce all the time, because then they're going to get stuck in that left brain. They will give you ideas, they will give you products or programs, whatever it is that you're developing in your business. They will give you tried and tested things that they know are safe, as opposed to pushing the margins. And so if you're wanting a business to not just grow but thoroughly outperform the competition, I actually think investing in your people's flow time and leaning into the discomfort of doing so, because it's a wild new way of doing business, I think that's going to reap rewards, but you won't be able to trust that until you see it.
And the benefits will be realised in longer term too. They're not...
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that kind of, I do think followers, what they're wanting, and again, research backs this up, what followers are wanting from their leaders is that focus on long-term, is that focus on innovation, compassion, empathy, kindness, creativity, collaboration. And the old school of leadership says productivity, busyness, results, short-term thinking, short-term results. And people are leaving organisations that are focused on those things.
Yes. The leaky tap of talent and is often because leaders are focused on the short term, right?
Yeah.
What's your advice to leaders who, like me, who know that the long term is where it's at? Like, that's what we should be thinking about. It's always play the long game. However, have needs that, in order to survive now as a business.
Yeah.
So there's like this push and pull, constant, and it's how do you find that happy medium, and how much time do you dedicate to one or the other?
It is really difficult, and I built a business and eventually sold it because I think we might have mentioned last time. I realised I don't enjoy growing a business. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not my purpose. So I really acknowledge that it's tricky. And I think the balance depends on every single situation. But what I would say is the brain has a tendency to go into binaries. So it's like, either I need to be this old school leader that's all about productivity, or I need to be, in a moo-moo, just smoking a joint and allowing everyone to roam free.
Yeah.
There's a space in between that we can play.
Although the second sounds...
I don't think you get many results that way, to be honest.
No? You don't reckon I look good in a moo-moo?
I think so. I'm seeing floral. I'm seeing flowing. Very colourful.
I've got the monk.
You do. Yeah, you do. So I think it's the other thing I would say is if you can focus on the big picture vision always, but then the small little steps you can take and making those steps as few as possible. Because if your life and your days and your employees' days are filled with those steps, then you're actually going to get out of alignment with your vision for the business anyway. So that combination of big vision, little tiny steps works really well.
Yeah, great. So balcony, peace, flow. And that was to tap into our intuition.
It's in order for our purpose to reveal itself to us, because I do believe it does when our minds are quiet enough to pay attention.
And say we've stumbled upon that. We've found the thing that makes us sing.
Yeah.
What next? The world is a busy place.
Yeah.
There's money issues, there's work issues, there's kid issues, there's everything else. Not issues, but things that bollards that get in the way. Yeah. And what's our next step? And I'm just going to take your point of, step by step, one thing at a time. But there'd be millions of people in that space right now. I know what I want to do, but I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are in that in that space, there are often a few things going on. When we uncover our purpose, ironically, the first thing that happens is, and it's really natural and it happens to everyone, our left amygdala goes, no, absolutely no. I'm not going to let you do that. And it's up to us to explore the fears and the stories and the beliefs that sit underneath that. So some people have a fear of failing. Some people have a fear of succeeding, because what happens then? Some people...
that's a Marianne Williamson quote.
Yeah, that's
our
right.
Light,
Yeah.
not our fear is our biggest... our light, not our darkness is our biggest fear.
Is our biggest fear, exactly. Some people fear what others will think of them. So one of the things we do, and it's really interesting in the in week 4 of what comes next, we do a group coaching call, and it's it's called Clear the Blockers, and so everyone gets to share, here's what's holding me back. And the reasons we're held back are so intricate and varied, but I do think the main ones are fear of failure, fear of success, what will they think, what if I can't find the money, what if I don't have the time. The other...
What about if it's I just can't be bothered? Then does that mean you haven't found... Because, you know, it's like, oh, I know I want to get into business, I want to do this, but I just couldn't be bothered. I haven't found the right thing yet, or the right widget to sell, or whatever it might be.
That's one of two possibilities. One is you haven't landed on the thing. So I always think that when you land on what it is you're here to do, you've got a sense of exhilaration and terror. So if you're just like, I haven't found the right widget to sell, it's probably not the right thing.
Correct.
The other thing is you are procrastinating because you know that this thing is going to help you be who you're here to be, and we have a natural fear of doing that. So we just need to tune in to see which one of those things it is.
Or it seems too hard and you just want to watch Netflix all night.
That's right, because we do like comfort. And part of the thing we need to do to move towards our purpose is lean into the courage of being uncomfortable, of not knowing everything, of not knowing whether it's going to work out. Because one of the things that stops us back is this fear, stops us from going for our purpose, is this fear that we don't have all the steps planned. This isn't a charted course, and there's this catastrophizing that happens. What if I end up on the street eating cat food or feeding my kids cat food? Our brains go there. So I would say a couple of things. One, you can map out the fears and actually say, well, what if that came true? What if I did fail? What would I do? What if this didn't work out? What if people didn't think this was a great idea? What would I do? And in mapping those fears, it's a Tim Ferriss exercise. You kind of get that fear-based brain out of the way. The second thing is what we were talking about before, which is the small steps. And I do think we confuse ourselves into thinking, I need to have it all mapped out. I need to be guaranteed that I can pay my mortgage for the next 5 years. And that's not going to happen in your current life anyway.
No.
It's just not. So the more you can, again, tune into your body from the neck down and ask yourself, what's the next tiny little right step, and just take that, you find that the next step appears, and then the next step after that. So again, that big vision of, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's something to do with this, and that's really compelling me and terrifying me in equal measure. And then what is the little tiny step I can take? So whether it's booking a venue or researching a business name, whatever it is, after you take that step, the next step appears.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm just casting my mind back to when I stepped out of where I was working. I had a safe government role, and stepped out of that. And I was going to ask you, I think, but you kind of mentioned it. I was going to say, can you almost have a second type of purpose? Is there one purpose? Because if I was going to say, like, when I stepped out, it was because I was this, young, so much greener. I had hair, and it wasn't grey. And I remember at that time going, people, leadership, they just don't, like, they don't know what they're doing. They treat people like shit. And I'm gonna hand on heart say, maybe I'm not the best leader either, but I had this sort of passion to say, nah, something needs to be done and
Yeah.
changed. And I knew more than anything else actually was I didn't want to work for anyone. I wanted to work for myself. That was probably the first thing that was leading me to wanting to step out. It's like, I think I can do a better job if I was to go out and create something. And then I met my business partner who asked me to come and join it, right? So the world opened up.
Yeah.
And I did. But I can honestly say that my passion and my purpose has evolved over time. It's completely different to when I stepped out.
Absolutely.
And you just find new things along the way, and you just like the podcast for me is one that absolutely connects me, and I'm able to share amazing people's stories to the world. But then not only that, I'm now passionate about creating a business where people want to work and feel like they belong. And, you know, and so it constantly, my purpose just keeps evolving with it as I'm going. And it's not just, that's my North Star and I'm just going to get to that. It just evolves as time goes on. So that's what I mean by second. You don't have to exactly find what it is, but you have to find something in your gut almost that suggests this is who I want to be and where I want to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would phrase it slightly differently in that you will find that through all the iterations of how your purpose has revealed itself to you, there's a golden thread that carries through all of them. And it's probably really vague and very big picture. So for me, I know that I'm here to help people see that spark inside of themselves, to light it up, and then to cross the, it sounds a little naff, I don't usually say this out loud, but to cross the alchemical bridge, as in to help them transform to be the person they're here to be and to do what they're here to do. But that has taken so many different forms throughout my life and my career, and it changes all the time. So I think if you can be aware of that golden thread and almost have a statement of this is what I'm here to do, but know that the way that expresses itself will change over the time, and actually just be really present enough to go, oh, I'm being pulled in this direction to express this purpose. It's not like I have this one purpose and it's to create a business that makes this much money. It's not that concrete. Yeah. It's an almost amorphous picture that makes us feel a certain way. And then we do different things throughout our career and life that lead us along that path.
And it doesn't have to be about work, does it?
No, of course not.
So you can just go to work and, you know, let's just say the standard 9 to 5. Yeah. But put your hand up to do some volunteer work and give back to the community that way. And
I do think that the biggest difference we actually make is it's almost like the scent we leave behind. Let me explain that. It's how we make others feel after we've left a room. Yeah. How have we left that room? How have we left those people? And so therefore, in lots of ways, you could have a purpose that is all about how you want to be in the world. And then what you are doing is just an avenue for that. So not everyone is going to be here to start a business. Yep. Not everyone is going to be really clear on what it is they want to do to make the world a better place, except for the fact that the how of how they choose to be in the world, just that makes the world a better place.
And I have the tendency to believe if you are making the world a better place, things follow you and opportunities follow you. And
yeah, there's much room for grace.
Yeah. The opportunities will arise if you're working towards your purpose. I honestly believe that, and I think that's what you're saying as well.
I agree, and I see it all the time.
Yeah,
moments that seem like coincidence, but I do believe a serendipity.
So, what's next? What comes next is your program. I mean, what do you help people do in that? So
it's an 8-week group coaching program, and it essentially helps people to work out what they want to do, to work out what I call their gold, which is their giant, outrageous, liberating dream. And that dream doesn't have to be huge. It can be small, it can be soft. But whatever it is that lights them up, the thing they're here to do, the person they want to be, what they want to be when they grow up, And then it gives them clarity on that, but then it gives them the courage to go ahead and make that a reality. And I'm really data-driven and evidence-driven. So in our inaugural program last year, we did a pre- and post-program survey just to look at where people were at the start of the program versus at the end. And by the end, 100% of participants were clear on their vision for the future. They were hopeful and excited about their vision and their future. And they said that they've got the courage to go ahead and the tools to go ahead and the know-how to go ahead and make that a reality, compared to, I think it was on average 16% at the start of the program.
Wow.
So big shifts.
Have you been following their progress? Like the people who've been on this show?
I'm still in touch with them. I actually missed their company.
Yeah.
We formed a really tight group, and they're going to be advocating for the program, which is really lovely.
Yeah, because you've got a new program coming up shortly, don't you?
What comes next?
Yeah. Is that the same one?
That's the same one. So May 3rd.
But you're doing another one.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
This is something you constantly do, isn't it?
Twice a year.
Yeah, twice a
Yeah,
year.
so next one starts May 3rd.
May the 3rd.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm interested in the liberating dream. So gold, what was it?
Giant, outrageous, liberating dream.
What are some practical tips that someone could think about that now? Start thinking about what they want to be when they grow up.
2 questions they can ask themselves. First is, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And the second is, if I knew everything that I touched would turn to gold, what would I choose to do? How would I spend my time? Actually, a bonus third question is, if I was guaranteed a salary that kept me not just comfortable but living the life I want to live for the next 4 years, how would I spend my time? So when you remove fears, practical considerations out of the way, and we allow ourselves to dream as opposed to go, I do think when we vision, we make this mistake of sitting down and say, right, I'm going to set a vision now. And we end up, if we're in that manic mind, we end up with very safe things that other people will find impressive. But are they coming from our heart? Are they coming from our gut? Are they coming from our intuition? They're not. So if we can get the fears out of the way and tap into what it is we would do if they weren't there, that's a really good clue. But the program has about 70 tools that are taught, strengths and values and getting into dreaming brain. People can have a look at the program. There are a number of tips in there.
Like, I'm sitting here right now trying to figure out what my liberating dream is.
Yeah.
Do
you feel like you're living it?
I don't know. I think that's the point. I absolutely love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I love what we're creating.
Yeah.
We're creating a business that specializes in change, workplace change.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that no one's doing it the way we're doing it, and the results are showing, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm speaking from someone who's currently living out a dream, I think. But I don't know that this was my dream when I set out to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so your goal will shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dream was to, when I was in management consulting, was to start a one-on-one coaching business with a tagline for those who have an inkling that life is meant to be extraordinary. And then it shifted to women's leadership, and then it will form different iterations. But what I would say to you is, do you feel a combination of peaceful, at home in yourself, joyful, and so free that it feels like sometimes you're just naked in a stiff breeze like that? What would it be that would give you that feeling? And are you doing that right now?
I reckon I would be if I allowed the noise to settle.
Bingo. That's you spot on. And this is what I get, going right back to the start of our conversation, this is why I get really frustrated with your conventional purpose and passion courses or books, is they don't talk about how to make the noise stop. So if the noise stopped, what would that free you up to do?
It would continue to grow this thing that I love growing, right? As opposed to being stuck in the doing.
Got it.
But then it would also allow me to travel and study and learn. And, I think for me, the values of SynergyIQ, the business in which I run and co-founded, are wisdom, grit, optimism, and daring. Like they're kind of different values to most companies.
Yeah.
But wisdom for me has always been the one, and this is why I started this podcast. It's about how do I continue to strive to learn more, to improve myself and those around me. And I think if I was actually to sit back and look at it, I would want to be in a position where I can spend time thinking and learning and innovating and speaking to those who have done it before or done something similar or done something different, and trying to mold that. Because for me, I love the chase.
Yeah.
Like that's the part that excites me the most. The ambiguity and the stepping into discomfort is something that I don't know, maybe it's a little bit sadistic. It's something that I enjoy because, walking into a dark room and not knowing where you are, I've got to figure this out.
Yes. So I would ask you, you love the chase. Is that always true? Do you want your life to be around that all the time?
No, I think, and this comes back to, growing up, I played sport at quite an elite level in my junior career, and you would reach a goal or a target, or you'd win a premiership, and then it would just be like, all right, what's next, right? Like,
that's right.
And therefore it becomes this constant, almost hamster wheel of trying to improve and get better.
And I can tell you now that comes from your left brain, which is I'm not going to let myself think I'm good enough until I've reached this goal.
And then you just set the next goal.
Exactly.
And then you set the next goal.
And you never give yourself the credit that you deserve, and you never stop and go, look what I did, because you're always chasing. And you cannot find peace when you're always chasing. So I agree with you. Sometimes the chase and the hustle is fun.
Yeah.
When it's in flow, it's great. But when it's driven by this sense of I have to prove myself so that I can feel peaceful, you don't actually ever feel peaceful. And the sense I get, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, but the sense I get from you is that your heart and your gut are craving the space to be, to explore, like you said, to travel, that freedom away from, so not saying you're letting go of this entirely, but it's a tweak to find a bit more balance.
Yes. Not going to lie. But I've got no other choice at the moment.
Is that true?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can sit and think about that one. I guess when you're in any sort of phase of scale up, you can definitely start relying on other people more and handballing that off.
I can tell you there are multiple ways you can go about it that will give you space immediately. But there'll be part of you that doesn't want to let go of that.
I'll make every excuse under the sun.
That's right.
But why do people make excuses then in that space? Like I think about the world. Like let's use the world of the corporate space,
sure.
and or even just entrepreneurship or startup, scale up, whatever it is. Whenever someone does get challenged and someone is held accountable, there is 1,000 excuses as to why they can't do that. Why do those excuses continually occur, and we create reasons as to why we're not able to achieve what we want to achieve?
Yeah, of course we do. And we're not bad or stupid or lazy for doing so. So half of our brain is wired to keep us in a box that others are going to find understandable, to keep us playing it safe. And there'll be part of you that goes, okay, if I was to take the hands off the control button just a little bit, there will be a fear that it'll all go to crap. There will also be a fear of if I allow myself peace, life's going to change. Like what might come up in that peace? And I'm not saying this applies to you, but I see a lot of people say, I am just going to keep going because I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle what it is that comes up when I stop, because this is familiar, this is comfortable. And I also think there is a belief for many people that they don't necessarily feel worthy of peace or worthy of space or worthy of their big vision. And so it's almost a self-sabotaging thing, which Brad Yates says that self-sabotage is always misguided self-love because we're trying to protect ourselves. But it's almost this thing of when we start to explore, oh, what if this is possible? It's a back in your box, sweetheart, because you're not worthy of that. So it's really helpful to try to tease out when you, for instance, Daniel, when you imagine taking that step. So imagine a life where there is more space, where you're traveling, where you're talking to people, where you're not in the doing all the time. What's the fear that comes up? And where does that fear come from?
Well, the fear comes up that the business goes backwards, right? The business, there's this inherent ego that that thinks that I'm required. And I mean, to step out, I think this goes with anyone that's running a business of some sort.
Absolutely.
Is to step out is risk if you haven't set it up right.
That's right. And so because we feel that fear, we then don't go down the path of, all right, let me just play with this for a bit. If I was to, so firstly, stepping forward 3 years, what would I want like? If I was living a life that was just so true to my values, to my strengths, to who I want to be in the world, to how I want to live my life, what does that look like? Secondly, what are some steps I could take to set that up? We almost don't look at that, what are the steps I could take, because there's too much fear there. So part of the way that we overcome the fear is to actually get really practical. If I did want that life, what would it look like? And it feels really uncomfortable to even consider it. But once you actually start to map it out at a practical level, it's like, actually, maybe that is doable. And we start to believe it's possible.
So this is my balcony time, right?
Exactly right.
This is where I need to spend that time thinking about that. Because it's not just oh yeah, I'm going to do it and tomorrow I'm just going to, there you go, guys, there's the keys, figure it out.
No, that's it. And again, it goes back to thinking that we're going to have all the solutions at once. But what you'll be doing is the big picture vision looks like this. What are some small things I can do to start getting there?
Yeah, good point. I like it. What do you see are the main things that hold people back from realizing their own purpose or they're hitting their goals in life? Because you would see a lot. You would hear a lot of excuses.
Yeah. And like I said before, they are so varied, but there is a lack of self-belief. There's a lack of self-worth. Like, who am I? Who am I to think this is possible?
It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah. There is the I should take the path that makes sense to others as opposed to the path. I think I read somewhere that you only know your path is yours if no one has paved it before. And I would say to people, what if your path looks entirely different to others who've come before you? What if you're here to pave an entirely a new path and blaze a new trail that makes people go, oh, I could do that. But we don't consider ourselves worthy of doing that. So I think self-doubt, I think society teaching us that we need to finish school, for instance, go to uni, get a job, and then we've made it. And we stop. I think that gets people in people's way. We are always uncovering our purpose bit by bit, and we're not taught the tools to uncover that. And I think the other biggest thing is what we've been talking about a lot during this episode, which is not allowing the time for our purpose and passion to speak to us. Because like I said, it speaks to us in that small, still, soft voice. And if we are doing because we feel this pressure to keep going, and so many people I know are on this hamster wheel of, back-to-back meetings, emails that just keep building up, phone calls that need to be returned, kids' lunches that need to be made, never stopping to go, let me just quieten that for a moment. Okay, what's next for me? So not having the know-how, not being taught how to do that, not giving ourselves permission to do that, that stands in the way of our purpose too. It's a multifaceted thing. It's not just, you don't know your strengths and you don't know your values. That's part of it, but there are multiple pieces of the puzzle.
where does mental health come in all this? Like when, we talk about this hamster wheel and rat race that everyone's joining this busy life.
Yeah.
Is this sort of the answer to the mental health crisis at the moment? Is like, do you know what I mean? Like because as you were talking there, I was thinking the actual first question I was going to ask that popped in my head was, what does the world look like when everyone is living to their purpose?
Yeah. I would start by saying I'm not a mental health expert, so I have a PhD in performance psychology.
Correct. What's your opinion?
There we go. I can answer that.
Yeah.
My opinion is that, and I'm looking at our kids these days who have inherited this world where everything is on a screen, everything is about being stimulated all the time, getting access to answer questions straight away. They're given hardly any time where there's no stimulation to just be and to be bored. And I think part of our mental health crisis is that we don't have the space in our minds to just be and be bored. We don't have that quiet time. And so our minds go in beta brainwaves, and beta brainwaves are associated with anxiety. They're associated with feeling low when we're in it too often and too much. So I think the more we can teach people to take the time to hop into alpha brainwaves to become whole-brained, then yes, people will naturally, I believe, uncover their purposes and their passion and what they're here to do. But I also think they're going to experience much more mental health. That is my opinion.
So to the question that I just asked them, which was, what does the world look like if everyone is living to their purpose?
Yeah.
We wouldn't, I don't want to, this isn't a comment to degrade anyone, but we wouldn't have any people driving garbage trucks, right? Like if everyone was living to their purpose.
I don't necessarily know if that's true.
Okay.
Yeah. So purpose can reveal itself. We have this sense that purpose needs to be something where you're doing something big and shiny and amazing in the world. And I don't think that's always it. It can reveal itself in really quiet ways. And in some ways, like I said before, some people have a purpose that is much more to do with who they are in the world and how they want to be as opposed to what they're doing.
Yeah, okay.
Having said that, and I don't want to get too utopian, given especially where the world is now, but if everyone has the capacity, capability, know-how to step into a whole brain state and uncover who it is they are and who it is they want to be, I can see that conflict in the world would reduce dramatically. I can see that there would be a much bigger focus on long-term sustainability. I think a lot of the world's biggest problems would actually start, I think it would take time, but they would start to get solved. Because people would know what the next right step is, and it wouldn't be based in ego, and it wouldn't be based in needing to prove themselves to be right and keep everyone safe. The other thing with the left brain state is it's about me as opposed to us. And when we get to move to a whole brain state, we are much more aware of the collective, and we're wanting to play our part in making it good for everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
It's about giving to others, isn't it? So anthropologically, right? We came from the caves or wherever we evolved over time, and our purpose then was to find food and create shelter and the basic human needs.
Yeah.
Do you think that because now we're in a state where we can just survive and there is shelter readily available, this is why our purpose has evolved to be what can we be and who can we be? Yeah.
Of course. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, unless we have shelter and food, we're not going to be able to look at self-actualization. So yes, and this is why I'm also really clear that not everyone is lucky enough to be in a position to say, well, who am I and who do I want to be in the world? But
everyone has a choice.
Say more about that.
I mean, you hear about some of the great stories that come out of a child who was abused and, come from a poor upbringing and created an amazing life for themselves. So that child made a choice that they didn't want to be like their parents.
Yes, and I believe that choice is possible, and I believe that there are many, many things that would get in the way of people from that background making that choice that we need to address. So I'm not a big believer in everyone can pick themselves up by the bootstraps, because it's just not true.
It's not that simple,
Yeah,
right?
exactly right. Yeah.
So your mission in life and vision is to see as many people reach their purpose as possible. Is that like, what is your...
My big picture, the big picture thing I want to do is play my very small part in uplifting humanity, in elevating human consciousness, which for me is it involves, through speaking, coaching, writing, helping people to see that they have this light in them, helping them to work out how to shine that out to the world to create that ripple effect. And then if they see this light in them and they know that they're not expressing that the way that they want to, the way they should be, how do they transform in a way that is relatively easeful, surprisingly enjoyable, so they can make it a reality for themselves?
Yeah, brilliant. If you were standing on top of a rooftop now, what would you yell out? Like, what do you want the world to know? What's in Gemma's brain that the world needs to know?
So much, Daniel. Let me think about that for a moment. That the world needs you. So I'd be addressing, and the way I do my work, even though I work in organizations a lot, I do think, and I really admire the work that you do, because organizational change is hard and it takes time. And the way I like to approach it is lighting up individual hearts and minds at a time. So I'd be speaking to individuals and I would say, you are needed. And if you have a sense that there's something in you that you are here to do, let go of the doubt as much as you can, the fear as much as you can, because the world needs that. We need you to be exactly who you are. That's how you're designed, and you're designed that way on purpose. So go for it.
I mean, that's a tough bridge to walk on, isn't it? Like, even to this day, I suffer of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, and I've sat in a room one-on-one with some amazing human beings like yourself and learnt from them directly, and then people come to me and they ask me for my opinion on something. I'm like, why the hell would you ask me? Like, why wouldn't you ask the people that I've spoken to? Like, they're clearly...
Yeah.
So when you say that the world needs you, how do you believe in yourself to say yes? Like, yes, they do, without being, up yourself or whatever it might be like.
And this is...
Because you don't want to walk around like...
Yeah, you don't want to be an arrogant asshole.
Out. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So,
of course. But this is the thing, this is one of the things, one of the ways we hold ourselves back. We think that if we step into our power, if we step into our authority, if we use the lessons, the experiences we've had that set us up to do something that no one else is set up to do, that we are going to turn into arrogant assholes. And it's simply not true. In fact, I would say if you've got a fear of being an arrogant asshole, you are just not an arrogant asshole. And I also think there's this myth that once we have uncovered what it is we're here to do, that we have no doubts anymore. We have no fears. And it is not true. I speak about courage and I speak about transformation. I speak about finding a wild new way of working. And there are moments, regular moments, where I'm like, really? Like, Gem, look at your life, because no one is perfect. And I am learning all the time, as are you. So we set ourselves up to fail if we think that if we are going to find our purpose and make it a reality, things are going to be perfect. We are going to be perfect. There will be no self-doubt, no fear. I've never seen it happen. Everyone I know who has really found their purpose and are making it a reality, they have their moments where they're struggling, but they start to be outweighed by the moments of, I feel clear, I feel calm, I feel at peace, and I feel drawn to do this thing. It doesn't mean the other moments don't happen, because we are all human.
So you mentioned you work with a lot of businesses, and you just said transformation. So the individual is somewhat easier maybe that's a statement that I should retract, but is somewhat easier than organizational transformation.
100%.
Yeah, right. So, mind you, your mind is a battlefield, but the organizational transformation and change is really difficult.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people within organizations who are looking to transform and change them, however, are met with roadblocks, often being other human beings.
Yeah.
What if I was to put a boiling pot in front of you right now and you needed to throw in some ingredients to say this will absolutely nail your transformation, what do you think those ingredients would be?
As an organisation?
As an organisation that's needing to transform.
I think I would actually say the biggest thing that gets in the way is, and this is why I do what I do, is individuals not having the skills to navigate change, to see change as an opportunity, not as a threat. And I think a lot of the organisations get it wrong because they assume that everyone is going to be on the journey. Because the CEO, for instance, is like, oh, this is great, I feel fantastic about this. They don't realise that actually just by announcing a change, people inside are going to go, oh my gosh, what does this mean for me?
Yeah, correct.
And they'll shut down, and some of them will sabotage. So the biggest thing, the first ingredient you can put in the pot that then allows other ingredients to have an effect is to give individuals the skills in managing and leading themselves through change, and particularly for leaders. I gave a keynote yesterday on leading through change, but I was very clear that it was actually for the leaders of this incredible not-for-profit in Perth. It was about helping them to manage themselves through change, because the brain is an open limbic system. And if you are not, as a leader, managing yourself through change, even if you're saying the right things, doing the right things, if your mood, if your emotions, if your energy is like, oh my gosh, your people pick up on that.
Absolutely.
So that I get very passionate about this. You cannot manage organisational change well if you don't equip individuals to manage it well within themselves.
Without that, I mean, the statistics are out there. Most changes fail off the back of poor leadership, right?
That's right.
And you know, we run a program here. We we're on a mission to reframe the way change is done, right? So we work with businesses both in how to execute on that change and help them, manage in that transformation, set that project up for success or whatever it might be, program. And then execute upon that. But core to that offering, or the way in which we go about it, is the other offering, which is got a program called Reframing Change, which is how do we think about change? Because there are 3 levels of change and people who are working on change within an organisation. Like you said, there's the leaders of change, the drivers of change, and where a lot of our research has gone in is how do we help people make sense of that change?
Yeah.
Because you can have all the awareness and desire in the world to want to change and do something different, but unless we can get our people as leaders, unless we can get them to make sense of change, we're not going to achieve anything, right?
Yeah.
But then on the next rung down, there's the enablers of change, it's the people who are doing it. They have a different thought process again. So it's about equipping them, like you're saying. It's equipping them with the right tools and processes and whatnot, and helping themselves and others make sense of it. And then we've got the rest of the organisation as the contributors of change. They're still got to be part of it.
Yeah.
We don't want them to be receivers and just be passive in it. We want them to contribute so that the whole organisation is seeing the successful change and transformation as it moves forward.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm particularly strong on, because I completely agree, and the way you're doing it is correct, we need to help people understand that they will almost always naturally sabotage themselves. So it's like one foot on the accelerator, one foot on the brake when it comes to change, and giving them the tools to realise why they're doing that and then to move past it. I think is really necessary. Yeah,
there's a lot of neuroscience that goes into that.
A lot of neuroscience, yeah.
Absolutely. So is there any last... We'll wrap up, and it's been an amazing conversation. Is there any last comments that you want to make? And happy for you to give your little plug for your What Comes Next program.
That's very kind. I would just say that if there are people listening who have that sense of, even if it's a quiet sense of, there's something out there that I'm meant to be doing, and I don't know what, but I know it's different to what I'm doing now. Or there are people out there who've actually got an inkling of what it is they want to do, but they're too scared to go and make it a reality. I think what comes next, I know the data shows that it helps people with those two things. So we start May 3rd. If people want to go to drgemmamunro.com, they can find the information there. And yeah, I'd love to. Your listeners, I'm sure, must be amazing. So would love to have them part of the program.
They are. And so are you. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I enjoyed the chat very much.
But thank you for all that you're doing because, I mean, you're talking about purpose and helping people realize their purpose. I mean, you must be living your dream and being able to do that as well. Obviously, giving is part of, it helps form purpose in so many ways. So thank you for all that you're doing because what you might do in this course might uncover the next thing that changes humanity. So I really, on behalf of everyone, appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Daniel.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you and find out more about us at SynergyIQ.com.au. I am going to ask, though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate, and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care, guys. All the best.